Hello?
Hello, Joyce?
If only dogs could talk, I wonder exactly what she would say. Hey there guys, my name's Megan if you're new here, and if not, welcome back for another spooky episode of Killer Weekend, where each week we'll discuss a true crime case and you guys can feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments box below. If you like all things true crime, supernatural, UFO, conspiracy theory, and all that good stuff in between, then please hit that subscribe button. I'll be here for you each week with our true crime killer weekends, and on and off every couple of Wednesdays with our Left for Reddit and Weirdo Wednesday episodes, where we'll discuss something spooky I've heard. I will leave a small disclaimer at the beginning of this episode. It does involve details of violent crime and also sexual violence. If that's a trigger point for you, then please feel free to turn away now. Yo, 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 my wee gremlins, how's you? It's been a while. We are officially in the thick of the summer season, and I have been surviving on leaves for the last 4 weeks, and surprisingly, I'm not down to a size 2 yet. Could be the late night Pizza Hut binges, or it could be the fact that I drink a gallon of whole milk every day. Funny weight loss story, and FYI everyone, do not try this at home, it's unhealthy. I heard a story about the Victoria's Secret fashion show, and allegedly, don't sue me, before the fashion show all the models would set a plate of raw prawns out on the window ledge in the hot summer heat and let them get all, I don't know what the word is, just disgusting. And once they were good and ripe, the girls would then eat the dirty prawns in the hopes that they would get food poisoning and shed some extra pounds before the show. That whole world just seems like such a toxic environment. Probably the reason why I never became a model. That and the fact that I'm 5'1" and built like a Shetland pony. Beauty is a funny wee thing, isn't it? It's great to feel beautiful in your own skin. It took me years to like myself, let alone love myself. But no matter how self-confident we are, we're always just naturally that little bit envious of other people. Whether it's the girl at school who wishes she had a J-Lo butt instead of a Taylor Swift pancake butt, or the guy who wishes he had abs like Channing Tatum. Wanting what other people have is pretty harmless, isn't it? But sometimes the green-eyed monster can drive everyday people to do unspeakable things. This week's case will make you understand exactly why the final commandment is thou shalt not covet. Tonight, everyone, we will be talking about the tragic tale of Alma Del Real, murder on the dance floor. It was a warm spring evening on Saturday, the 11th of April 2015 in South Bend, Indiana. Weekends were always quite busy in the small town, and with Notre Dame University only minutes away, every Friday and Saturday night the streets would be filled with college students looking to kick back and have a few beers. If you weren't out experiencing the nightlife, then you'd probably be with friends catching a Friday night football game. This idyllic cityscape has a bit of everything, and is famous for that Midwestern charm that some of your more populated areas have since lost. A regular on the social scene, 22-year-old Alma Del Real was out that night with 2 of her girlfriends. Mexican-born beauty Alma was into fashion, so as per always, she was dressed to impress. That particular night, she wore a black crop top, a tanned leather jacket, a pair of light blue ripped jeans, and her signature pair of black high heels. Anyone with eyes could see that Alma was a beautiful girl. She took care of herself and even dreamed of becoming a professional makeup artist. The girls started their evening with a couple of fruity cocktails at Brothers Bar, and when they were reasonably tipsy and had built up a little bit of Dutch courage, they decided to go dancing at Studio Rumba. It was said that Alma came alive on the dance floor, and everywhere she moved that night, she turned heads. The girls cut up the floor for a good few hours, and at around 3 a.m., they decided to call it a night. The group hugged and said their goodbyes as one by one they got a ride home. Alma had actually contacted her longtime friend Alberto Cruz to come and pick her up that night, and he arrived just after 3 a.m. to drive her back to her home in Ewing Street. They pulled up to the house at around 3:25 a.m. and Alberto watched as Alma stumbled up to her front door. He had offered to walk her to her front door, but she had said no, she would make it on her own. Many might ask why he didn't push Alma on this and why he didn't insist on walking her to her front door, but Alberto had known Alma since childhood and knew that she was not only stubborn but fiercely independent, and he knew better than to argue with her when she'd had a few drinks. Once he saw her reach her front door and give him a wave over her shoulder, he drove away. The reasons he didn't stay to make sure she get in the house was 1, he was tired and was ready for his bed, and 2, he assumed in this quiet neighbourhood only 3 feet away from her living room, she would be safe. But Alma Del Real was far from safe, and that would be the last time anyone would ever see her alive. At 9:30 a.m. on the 12th of April, a close friend of Alma's named Crystal Rangel had arrived at her South Bend home to pick her up. The two girls had arranged to go to a makeup show in Chicago and they would drive down together. After a few minutes of waiting and still nothing, Crystal walked up to the front door and gave it a loud knock. She noticed that all the lights in the house were off. This was extremely uncharacteristic for Alma because she had been so excited about the convention. She would have been up for hours doing her hair and makeup. So where was she? Instinctively, Crystal then checked Alma's Snapchat. She was known to upload several photos a day to the social media site, and when she saw that there had been no updates from Alma since the night before, she knew something was wrong. Monday morning arrived with still no sign of the 22-year-old. Her family became extremely concerned when she never showed up for her shift at Wells Fargo Bank. She had been a really reliable and well-liked employee whilst working there as a teller. So when she didn't show up, everyone knew that she wouldn't just ditch work. After multiple failed attempts at contacting her baby niece, Alma's aunt, Susana Lagunes, contacted law enforcement on the 14th of April. Investigators started off by retracing Alma's steps the night she went missing. But who was Alma Del Real, and why would someone want to make her disappear? Alma Angelica Del Real was born on the 15th of October 1992 in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico, to her mother Magdalena Del Real. Being one of 3 daughters, Alma also had 2 sisters, Liliana and Vanessa. Growing up in Guadalajara, the capital of Jalisco, and also the birthplace of tequila and mariachi music, her life in South Bend couldn't have been further from where she was born. If you were to Google Guadalajara, you will probably be met with hundreds of photos of well-structured architecture that will put any small town to shame. But something that will probably knock your socks off also is their crime rate. In the late 1980s, the capital was well known for its gang activity. In fact, the cartel were said to frequent the area. Behind the stunning 18th century Gothic buildings, there was a malevolent force. Gangs. Gang violence is still very present in Guadalajara today, so much so that tourists are told not to travel to certain areas there. With crime rates in their urban area steadily increasing and with job opportunities at an all-time low, Magdalena Del Real made a difficult choice. Her parents, Maria and Leandro, had already set up a life for themselves in the US, and in the hopes of a better prospect for her future, Magdalena put 10-year-old Alma on a plane to go and start her new life in Indiana. Alma's grandparents and now guardians did an incredible job of raising the little girl, and after she'd gotten used to small town life, she said that she felt like she had a real home base. Her aunts Susanna and Gabriela had also moved to the US, and they saw Alma as a little sister. Grateful for every opportunity her grandparents provided her with, Alma was a proud member of several clubs, her favourites being dance and soccer. Maybe it was raw talent, maybe it was those Latina genes, but when Alma heard the music playing, she couldn't help but move. With passions for not only sports but makeup, the young teen was going against all of those typical tomboy stereotypes. In fact, some of her soccer teammates said that no matter the weather, she would be out on the pitch with a full face of makeup, even if it was pouring of rain. I'm actually very similar, not the athletic side, but if I'm even taking the bins out, you'll see me there with my contour stick, just making sure the postman doesn't catch me off guard. During her education at Clay High School, Alma won countless awards for her performance on the soccer field. But once she left school, she kind of felt a little bit stuck. It wasn't that she couldn't figure out what she wanted to do, it was the fact that there was so many things she wanted to do. Alma even had an extensive bucket list. She wanted to open her own dance studio, she wanted to be a makeup artist to the stars, and at one point she even thought about getting into showbiz herself. But all of those dreams would require one thing: money. And a lot of it. But our Alma was never one to shy away from hard work. Having worked full time both after school and on the weekends since the age of 15, Alma knew if she wanted to reach her goals, she would need to put in double the effort, which is why she got a job working in the local bank, and it was said that she was a natural right from the beginning. Other co-workers said that she was just so welcoming and that she genuinely cared about her customers. It would seem that any problem that would come her way, Alma could fix with one flash of that beautiful smile. Even though Alma was working a lot, she never gave up on her dreams of entering into the beauty industry. In fact, in her free time, she would sell unique cosmetics, and then on the weekends, if she wasn't at the beach with her friends, she would be practicing her makeup skills on her Aunt Susanna. By the time Alma reached her early 20s, she was becoming the incredible young woman she was destined to be. No one had a bad word to say about her. Nobody who knew this sweet, charming, family-orientated girl could have been involved in her disappearance. So, did that mean it was a stranger? The day Alma's aunt reported her missing, law enforcement began retracing her steps on the night that she vanished. Had someone spotted the gorgeous Alma at the nightclub, and had she rebuffed anyone's advances? The group she had partied with that very night said that nothing stood out to them as unusual. They couldn't remember any specific guy giving Alma trouble. She was a beautiful girl. She always got attention from guys. Her friends seemed adamant that they couldn't recall anyone making their girlfriend feel uneasy that night. So, was it a stalker watching from afar? Were they deliberately keeping their distance? Next to be interviewed was Alma's childhood friend and the man who dropped her off at her front door that night, Alberto Cruz, who investigators believe was the last person to see her alive. He repeated his statement with no changes, but he did say that looking back in hindsight, one thing stood out as quite strange to him. On his journey back home from dropping her off, Alberto had received a FaceTime call from Alma. He said he ignored it for one of two reasons. He said that one, he was still driving and couldn't answer his phone, and two, he was tired and he was pretty sure that his drunk friend was now asking him to take her for a late night munch. We've all been there. You have a few shots, next thing you know you're looking for the nearest McDonald's. But law enforcement now believe that this wasn't Alma looking for a late night snack, but her final cry for help. But how and why would someone snatch Alma from her own front door? How would they know what time she arrived back and that she was alone? Unless they were watching her. Also, something that seemed off about this crime is it's extremely risky to abduct someone from their front door in a busy neighbourhood just as the sun's coming up. Dicey, yes, but doorstep crimes still do happen. Remember the case we covered last year of pretty cheerleader Kirsten Costas, who was stabbed to death in her own driveway by a wannabe friend? Let's not forget Jill Dando, whose doorstep murder in London shocked the nation. After countless false leads and no sign of Alma returning, law enforcement began to consider that she had been victim to a trafficking ring. Alma's bank cards and her ID were still in the home and remained unused. Her handbag, her keys and her phone, however, remained missing. Was it possible that someone had been stalking Alma, had grabbed her from her doorstep and ushered her into a car, all without anyone noticing? The trafficking and abduction theory was all police had to go on, and it seemed like a strong possibility. Several tips did come in to suggest that the 22-year-old had been taken to Ohio to be sexually exploited. When that dried up, investigators were called to a hotel in Chicago because of a woman who matched Alma's description who had been seen in the hotel lobby. However, this turned out again to be a dead end. It was said that the girls were so alike that she and Alma could have been twin sisters, but it wasn't Alma Del Real. The investigation team were so dedicated they never gave up on hope that they would find Alma and bring her home to her family. So when all of their leads went nowhere, they decided to go back to the beginning to try and trace her final moments to see if there was anything that had been overlooked the first time. Once again, they spoke to her friends who she was with that night. They spoke to the club owner, to those who were working at both clubs that night, and they also spoke to Alberto Cruz, her childhood friend who had been the last person to see her, and his story was exactly the same, except for one detail. Remember initially Alberto had said that he had received a FaceTime call from Alma but had deliberately ignored it because he was tired and he wanted to get home. Well, now he was changing his story and said that he never ignored it at all. He said that because his music was so loud, he didn't actually see the call. Police requested to have another look at Alberto's phone so they could find an exact time of when Alma made this call. And reluctantly, he handed it over. And there they had proof of Alberto's lies in black and white. It would appear from the phone's GPS signal that Alberto hadn't driven straight home after dropping Alma off at 3:30. No, his phone stayed in the vicinity of Alma's home until 5:40 a.m. that morning. At the time, it was just a minor inconsistency, but law enforcement felt like there was something buried underneath the surface, so they gave Alberto a little push, and with that, a shocking story came flying out of his mouth. He now claimed that the night that he pulled up in front of Alma's home, they were ambushed by members of the Mexican cartel. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. He told investigators that he had been overpowered by a group of men. He had been literally thrown from his own car and watched on in horror as they drove off with Alma and his cell phone in the car. Alberto said he eventually made it home, didn't call anyone about this cartel incident, and when he woke up in the morning, it was a Christmas miracle. His truck was parked right outside his apartment with his phone on the passenger seat and his keys in the ignition. That's true, actually. That's one thing I've heard about the Mexican cartel, is that they're really chivalrous. Lovely, lovely bunch of guys. Of course, this wasn't true, but Alberto Cruz was not budging until FBI agent Tom Weber decided to take a gentler approach with the suspect. He simply walked in, sat down, and calmly said to Alberto, "Listen, let's take a drive and you can show me where the body is." Bizarrely enough, Alberto actually complied, and on the 20th of May 2015, they were led to the decomposed remains of Alma Del Real, just 40 miles away from her home. This incredible young woman was left lying face down in the dirt. Her cause of death was strangulation, and whilst Alberto sobbed in the back of the police car, one by one, Alma's family members were informed that she would never be coming home. Devastation swept through the Del Real family, not only because they had lost this shining light in their lives, but also because they had been tricked, fooled into believing that Alberto Cruz was a genuine friend of Alma's. He would attend prayer vigils with Alma's loved ones and searches, all the while pretending that he was grieving for her too. On one occasion, when Alma's aunt broke down crying, he comforted her and promised, "We'll bring her home. I swear we'll find her." As soon as Alberto was arrested, he changed back to his cowardly ways, pleading not guilty. He claimed that that night Alma had invited him into her apartment with the notion of romance on her mind. He said the two had consensual sex, but out of nowhere, Alma said that she was going to blackmail him, and if he didn't pay up, she would tell his girlfriend about their sexual encounter. His defence, which was already struggling at best, really crumbled when he claimed that in a fit of anger, he shoved Alma, she fell, hit her head, and died. He had no choice but to dispose of her body in a panic, and then he decided to blame the cartel for her death. Now, one thing that just doesn't add up about this is that Alma sustained no head injuries. Her cause of death was strangulation. From mutual friends' testimonies, they deduced that Alberto had been obsessed with Alma and had been for years. Early on in their relationship, Alma sentenced his ugly self to the friend zone. He watched on for years as Alma went out with boy after boy, but it would never be him. He radiated jealousy until one night he decided that if he couldn't have her by choice, he would take her by force. That evening, Alberto forced his way inside Alma's home where he raped her and then made sure she would never tell a soul. I can't imagine how terrifying Alma's final moments must have been, watching her childhood pal turn into this beast right in front of her eyes. In an almost record time of only 1 hour and 30 minutes, the jury found him guilty and he was sentenced to 60 years in prison. Alma Del Real touched the lives of everyone around her, and she's got one of those personalities I'm just sure I would have instantly liked her had I had the pleasure of meeting her. It was said she was amazingly maternal with her little cousins, and these are memories that her grandparents, her mother and her aunts will cherish forever. The thing that breaks my heart about this case in particular is the fact that there was nothing Alma could have done differently to prevent her fate. She did everything right. She was being safe. She took a ride home from someone that she had been friends with for years and that she trusted. What happened to Alma proves a point that we as women have been trying to make for years. You can do everything right as a woman, but one of these monsters will still find a way into your life. Shortly before she passed away, Alma expressed an interest in going back to university to study business. We can't say for sure what she would have achieved, but I can say for certain it would have been incredible. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please give it a big thumbs up for me. It really helps my channel. If you're watching for the first time and the glass of cow udder hasn't put you off, then please hit that subscribe button. Also, if you're feeling fancy, hit the wee notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes. If you would like to follow me, not home because that's inappropriate, on Instagram at Megan True Crime. I also have a TikTok page at megan.truecrime, and we're just wilding out here in 1972 because we have Twitter. Do people still use Twitter who still have their real hips? I wanted to say a big massive thank you. I feel like I've not said thank you in a while, and I want you all to know I really appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing my channel. I appreciate you in the comments. Also, on a serious note, the people who share their incredible, heartbreaking, harrowing survivor stories with me, thank you so much. It makes me realise that this channel is exactly where I should be in my life. So before I cry in my milk, I love you all so much. Please remember to lock your doors, don't talk to strangers, and also don't talk to your male friends. Apparently you can't trust anyone these days. See ya!